3. Client versus server, GUI, hierarchy, and properties. First, we're going to talk about the client. In Roblox, games run on two different systems: the client, which is the player's device, and the server, which is the shared game world. Let me explain the differences in how they work. The client is specific to each player. It handles things like your camera view, your character's movement, and your GUI. The server manages the game world that all players share. It handles things like spawning objects, physics, and interactions between players. A key rule to remember is what happens on the client stays on the client. This means changes made on the client, aka in local scripts, won't affect the server unless you explicitly communicate with the server. For example, you might change your GUI or your character's appearance on your client, but it won't affect other players unless you send that data to the server. Or, for example, which we're going to demonstrate, when you change the transparency of a part, it won't change for other players unless you change it on the server. If you change it on the client only that specific player will see that change. But for everyone else, it'll stay the same. So I'm going to show this example by running the script, by playing the game. So this is a local script, and you can see the part has a transparency of 0.5. You can see through it, as you can see. But if I switch to the server, you can see the part has no transparency. You can not see through it. So it's only affected for this specific player, only for me and not on the server. Now, if I disable this local script and enable the server script, and I play, you can see it changes for everyone. Right? I also had some other stuff in the server script which changes the size and everything. But as you can see, for the client and the server, it changed both. Think of the client as your personal workspace and the server as the classroom everyone shares. If you draw something on your personal notebook, no one else sees it, for example. But if you write it on the classroom whiteboard, everyone can see it. Next is the GUI. GUI is how you can demonstrate visuals on the player's screen, such as clickable buttons, text, whatever. This is a text label. How it's going to work is I put a local script into the screen GUI. You need a screen GUI in order to display any GUIs. So I put a screen GUI and the text label inside the screen GUI, and also a local script in there. Then I grab the text label, which is this script.parent wait for child text label, and I'm going to change the text of it, change the color, and change the size and position. So now, as you can see, this is what it looks like. But when I run the game, you will see the GUI now says hello player with the red color, and it's bigger size and whatnot. So for sizing a text label and position, use udim2.new, and then your coordinates and position and size. For color, it's color3.new. For text, you do .text hello player. Next is hierarchy and properties. Roblox games are organized in a tree-like structure called the hierarchy. At the top of the tree is game, and everything in your game is a child of game. For example, this workspace is a child of game, and it holds all the physical objects in the game. Starter GUI holds all the GUI objects, and replicated storage is for storing data that both the client and the server can access. Remember this: the replicated storage is for both the client and the server to access. Server script service and server storage, the client cannot access this. For example, if I play the game and I'm on I'm sorry, if I put a script in here, right? You see these scripts in server script service, right? If I play with these server scripts in there, you will see that they are not accessible for me. However, if I go to the server, they are there. Now look, if I were to move these into replicated storage, you see I can access that from the client, but not from server storage or server script service. Those are only for server side. Server script service runs scripts, so if you put a script in here that's not disabled, it will run. If you put a script in server storage, it won't run even if it is enabled. And for replicated storage, nothing will run in here. If it's disabled, enabled, this is basically just stored data. It will not run anything in here. Okay. Each object in the hierarchy has properties, such as the workspace. You can see all its properties here, and the players, and the lighting, and the material service. All of these have properties. Everything in the game has a property. Even the camera, the terrain, scripts, parts, characters, everything, right? Properties describe the object's characteristics, like its color, its size, its position, or its transparency. How to access and modify properties. We can access objects in the hierarchy by using a dot notation, like how I'm doing here in this local script. I'm grabbing the text label in the starter GUI, right? And then I'm doing a dot notation text. Text is one of the properties, so if I search up in here, text, you can see it's a property of this. And it's a changeable property that I can change. So, like game.workspace.part. That's also another example. Game, the property of game is a workspace. The property of workspace is part. Property of part is transparency. Transparency controls how see-through an object is. If a value is at 0, it's fully visible, while 1 is invisible. Size uses vector3, as you can see right here. Vector3.new is how you define the size with the width, height, and depth. Vector3 is also how you define position with x, y, and z. And that is all for this lesson. So, it's activity time.